The sound of packing tape ripping through silence feels like someone tearing apart my life, strip by methodical strip. I stand frozen in our bedroom doorway, watching Mark seal another cardboard box. He hasn't noticed me yet, too focused on his careful labeling system, the same attention to detail that once made me fall in love with him. I'm Clara, and this is the moment my marriage ends. Not with the dramatic flair of a soap opera, but with the mundane sound of packing tape and marker squeaks. Were you planning to tell me, or just disappear while I was at work? My voice comes out steadier than I feel. Mark startles, dropping the marker. It rolls under our bed, the bed we picked out together at that overpriced furniture store his mother hated. You're home early. Clearly not early enough. I step into the room, my heels clicking against hardwood. Each step feels like I'm walking through molasses. How long have you been planning this? He doesn't answer immediately, just runs his hands through his hair, a nervous tick I used to find endearing. Clara, we both know this isn't working, do we? Because I must have missed that conversation. I pick up one of his precisely labeled boxes. Winter clothes. It reads in his perfect architect's handwriting. When exactly did we decide this? Mother thinks. Of course. I laugh, but it sounds more like breaking glass. Vivian thinks. Vivian says. Vivian knows best. Tell me, Mark, do you even breathe without checking with her first? His face hardens. That's not fair. Fair? I set the box down hard enough to make him wince. Fair would be having an actual conversation about our marriage before you started packing it away in neat little boxes. Fair would be acknowledging that I'm your wife, not some temporary inconvenience standing between you and your mother's approval. You're being dramatic. He turns back to his packing, a dismissive gesture that ignites something fierce in my chest. Mother simply pointed out that our financial situations are fine. My business is growing. We're not struggling. Your little design projects aren't exactly reliable income. My little projects paid for half this house. I grab the box he's working on, dumping his carefully folded shirts onto the floor. And they'd be doing even better if your mother hadn't scared away 3 of my biggest clients last month. He freezes. What are you talking about? Oh, you didn't know. Funny how the Hendersons, the Patels, and Brighton Corp all suddenly pulled their contracts after meeting with your mother about property investments. I start counting on my fingers. The same mother who just happens to be pushing you to leave because I'm financially unstable. Mark's face pales slightly, but he recovers quickly. You're paranoid. Mother would never... Stop saying mother like she's some kind of saint. I grab another box, this one labeled important documents. Let's see what else she's been orchestrating, shall we? He lunges for the box, but I'm faster. Inside, beneath bank statements and insurance papers, I find a folder I've never seen before. The contents make my blood run cold. Detailed reports of my business dealings, copies of emails between my clients, even photos of me meeting with competitors. She's been having me followed? My hands shake as I flip through the papers. It's not what you think. Mark reaches for the folder, but I step back. Mother was just concerned about our future. She wanted to make sure that I was properly destroyed before you left me? I clutch the folder to my chest. How long have you known about this? His silence is answer enough. Get out! My voice is ice now, all the heat of anger crystallizing into something harder. Take your boxes and get out, but these... I wave the folder. These stay with me. Clara, please. I said get out! I throw the empty box at him. It bounces harmlessly off his chest, but he flinches as if I'd struck him. Go run to Mommy. Tell her she won, but make sure you tell her something else too. I step closer, lowering my voice. Tell her she just made the biggest mistake of her life. Mark stares at me for a long moment, then silently begins gathering his boxes. As he walks past me, he pauses. I'm sorry it ended this way. No, I say, watching him leave. You're not sorry it ended this way. You're just sorry I found out this way. The front door closes with a quiet click, but in my mind, it echoes like a gunshot. I sink onto our bed, My bed now, still clutching the folder of surveillance reports. Tears burn behind my eyes, but I refuse to let them fall. Instead, I open my phone and dial. Sophie, I need your help. It's time to make Vivian regret ever hearing my name. Sophie arrives with 2 bottles of wine and a determined expression that tells me she's already formulating plans. I've spent the last hour spreading the surveillance photos across my dining room table like some twisted puzzle. This is next-level crazy, Sophie says, examining a photo of me having lunch with the Hendersons last month. Who does this? Someone who's been planning to destroy me for years. I pour us both generous glasses of red. Look at the timestamps. She's been collecting these since before Mark and I even got married. Sophie picks up another photo. Wait, isn't this from your first meeting with Brighton Corp? 3 weeks ago, right before they mysteriously backed out of our contract. The wine tastes bitter. Vivian's fingerprints are all over it, but I can't prove anything, yet. My phone buzzes, Mark's number. I silence it. He's called 4 times today, Sophie notes, watching me. Maybe you should. What? Listen to more excuses? Watch him try to justify why his mother having me stalked was somehow for my own good? I grab one of the surveillance reports. Did you know she had someone track my business expenses for the past year? Every client meeting, every supply purchase, every late-night design session, all carefully documented to paint me as financially irresponsible. The doorbell rings. Sophie and I exchange glances. If that's Mark, I swear. I start, but Sophie's already heading to the door. I hear murmured voices, then Sophie returns with an envelope. Special delivery from the Dragon Lady herself. The envelope is heavy, expensive paper, with Clara, written in Vivian's precise handwriting. Inside is an invitation to her annual charity gala next weekend, along with a handwritten note. Dear Clara, I trust you'll handle this unfortunate situation with the dignity expected of someone who was, however briefly, part of our family. The gala would be an excellent opportunity to demonstrate that maturity. Vivian. She can't be serious, Sophie says, reading over my shoulder. I start laughing, the sound sharp and hollow. Oh, she's serious. This is what she does. Turns everything into a public performance. She wants to show everyone how graciously she's handling her son's failed marriage. You're not going. Of course I'm going. I grab my laptop. In fact, I'm going to make sure it's a night Vivian never forgets. Sophie sits beside me. Clara, wait. What are you thinking? I pull up my client list. Remember Thomas Chen, the tech millionaire whose startup I did branding for last year? The one Vivian tried to poach for her new development project? Exactly. He's been looking to invest in more properties, and I happen to know exactly where Vivian's weak spots are. I start typing an email. It's time to show her what my little design projects can really do. Clara. Sophie's voice is gentle. Are you sure you want to play her game? This woman's been manipulating people for decades. I'm not playing her game. I hit send. I'm starting my own. She wants to talk about financial stability. Let's see how stable her empire is when I start picking it apart, piece by piece. My phone buzzes again. Mark. This time I answer. Clara, please, he starts. Mother says, I got the invitation. I cut him off. Tell her I'll be there. You will? He sounds surprised, then suspicious. Why? Because that's what family does, right? Shows up for important events? I keep my voice sweet, knowing Vivian's probably listening. I wouldn't want to disappoint your mother. There's a long pause. Clara, whatever you're planning. Goodbye, Mark. Give my love to your mother. I hang up and find Sophie watching me with concern. You know this could get ugly. It already is ugly. I pull up another email, this one from the Hendersons, canceling a project we'd been planning for months. Vivian just doesn't realize it yet. My phone pings with a response from Thomas Chen. He's interested in meeting. Perfect, I murmur, then look at Sophie. Want to help me pick out a dress for the gala? Something that says, loving daughter-in-law, but also, I know where the bodies are buried? Sophie sighs, but reaches for her wine. You're really going to do this? I look at the surveillance photos spread across my table, each one a reminder of Vivian's careful, calculated destruction of my life. She thought she could break me down slowly, make me look like the unstable one who couldn't handle marriage to her precious son. I smile, and it feels dangerous. Time to show her what happens when you corner someone with nothing left to lose. The meeting with Thomas Chen takes place in a sleek downtown cafe, far from Vivian's usual haunts. He's exactly as I remember, sharp-eyed and direct, with no patience for small talk. "Your proposal is interesting," he says, sliding through my presentation on his tablet. "But I have to ask, why come to me specifically?" I take a careful sip of espresso. "Because you understand the value of disruption, Mr. Chen. And because Vivian Harrison tried to manipulate you last year." His expression doesn't change, but his fingers stop moving across the screen. "Go on." "She attempted to use your interest in the Riverside development to pressure other investors. When that failed, she spread rumors about your company's financial stability." I pull out my phone, showing him the relevant emails from my surveillance file. "She cost you that deal. And now you're suggesting we work together to cost her something in return." He studies me over his cup. "This feels personal." "Everything Vivian does is personal. That's her weakness." I lean forward. "The Davidson project she's been bragging about? It's built on false projections. I have proof." Before he can respond, movement near the cafe's entrance catches my eye. Mark walks in with his realtor friend, James. They haven't noticed me yet. "Excuse me," I murmur to Thomas, sliding lower in my seat. But it's too late. "Clara?" Mark sounds surprised, then suspicious as he spots Thomas. "What are you doing here?" I straighten up, forcing a smile. "Business meeting. You remember Thomas Chen?" Mark's face pales slightly. "Mr. Chen, I didn't realize you and Clara were acquainted." "We go way back," Thomas says smoothly. "Your wife's talent for spotting opportunities is remarkable." "Ex-wife," Mark corrects quickly. "And speaking of opportunities, I hope she mentioned that any business ventures in this area should really go through Vivian?" I interrupt. "Like the Riverside deal did?" James tugs at Mark's sleeve. "We're going to be late for that appointment." "Actually," Thomas stands, gathering his things, "I believe we're finished here. Clara, I'll have my team draw up the contracts. Your insight into local dynamics has been invaluable." After they leave, Mark rounds on me. "What are you doing?" "Business," I repeat. "You know, those little projects your mother's so concerned about?" "Stop it!" He grabs my arm as I try to leave. "Whatever you're planning with Chen." I wrench away. "Don't touch me. You lost the right to question my business decisions when you let your mother destroy them. She was trying to protect our family's interests." "Your family's interests." My laugh draws stares from nearby tables. "Tell me, Mark, did those interests include having me followed, photographed, having my clients threatened?" He runs a hand through his hair. That familiar gesture that used to mean stress, but now just reminds me of manipulation. "It wasn't like that. Mother only wanted—" I know exactly what she wanted. I gather my things, hands shaking slightly. And now she's going to get it, just not the way she expected. My phone buzzes. Sophie sending details about the charity gala. Another message pops up from Thomas. "Meeting set with Davidson investors, tomorrow." "Clara?" Mark's voice has softened. "Please don't do anything rash. Mother can make things very difficult." "More difficult than destroying my marriage? My business? My reputation?" I show him the surveillance photos on my phone. "How much more difficult can it get, Mark?" He stares at the photos, recognition flickering across his face. "Where did you get these?" "From the files you left behind. The ones documenting every move I've made for the past 3 years." I lean closer, dropping my voice. "Did you enjoy reading them? Did you and Vivian sit together, planning how to break me down piece by piece?" "It wasn't. I didn't." He stops, looking lost. "I just wanted everyone to be happy." "Well, congratulations. Your mother's happy. You're free to be her perfect son again." I start walking away, then pause. "Oh, and Mark? Tell her I'm looking forward to the gala. I have so many people I want to introduce her to. Outside, I take deep breaths of cold air until my hands stop shaking. Thomas's message still glows on my screen, promising the first real crack in Vivian's carefully constructed empire. My phone buzzes again. Sophie. How did it go? She asks. I watch through the cafe window as Mark makes a call, his movements agitated. Probably warning Vivian. Better than expected, I answer. The game's changing, Sophie, and Vivian's about to learn she's not the only one who knows how to play. The Davidson investors meeting feels like a chess match, where every piece is made of glass. I sit quietly, watching Thomas Chen methodically dissect Vivian's project projections, while her face grows increasingly rigid. These numbers seem optimistic, Thomas says, tapping the spreadsheet, particularly given the current market conditions. I notice Vivian's perfectly manicured nails digging into her leather portfolio. She doesn't look at me, but I feel her awareness of my presence, like static electricity. The projections are sound, she replies smoothly. I've personally overseen every aspect of this development, so including the environmental impact reports. I slide a folder across the table, because these documents tell a rather different story. The room temperature seems to drop 10 degrees. Vivian's eyes finally meet mine, and I see something I've never witnessed before. Fear. Where did you get those? Her voice remains steady, but her knuckles are white. The same place you got your surveillance photos of me. I maintain eye contact. Interesting what people will share when they realize they're not the only ones you've manipulated. Thomas clears his throat. Ladies, perhaps we should focus on... This meeting is over. Vivian stands abruptly. These allegations are baseless and... Sit down, Vivian. The command comes from Robert Davidson himself, silent until now. I'd like to hear more about these discrepancies. My phone buzzes. A text from Sophie. 911. Mark at your house. Something wrong. I force myself to stay seated, even as my stomach twists. The environmental reports were altered, I continue, to hide contamination from previous industrial use. The cleanup costs alone would triple your projected expenses. That's impossible, Vivian snaps. Those reports were confidential, like the photos of me meeting clients, or the financial records you used to convince Mark I was unstable. My phone buzzes again. I ignore it. Robert Davidson leans forward. Mrs. Harrison, is there something you'd like to explain? The meeting dissolves into technical discussions and legal implications. I slip out during a heated exchange about soil samples, my phone now vibrating constantly. Mark is sitting on my porch steps, head in his hands. He looks up as I approach, and my sharp words die in my throat. His face is ashen. What happened? Mother had a heart attack. His voice is hollow. Right after some meeting, they took her to St. Mary's. The triumph I'd felt moments ago curdles in my stomach. Is she stable for now? He stands, swaying slightly. She was asking for you. I bark out a laugh. Me? Why would she? Because she knows. Mark's eyes are red-rimmed. About everything. The Davidson deal, Thomas Chen, the environmental reports. She said she underestimated you. My hands start shaking. Mark, did you know? He steps closer. About the contamination. About how exposing it wouldn't just ruin her, but everyone connected to the project? Including me? The pieces click together with sickening clarity. Of course Vivian would have ensured Mark was legally entangled in the development. Of course she'd use him as a shield. I stop, remembering all those nights I'd spent plotting, focusing only on Vivian. Had I become just like her, willing to destroy anything in my path? My phone rings. Sophie again. Clara, the Davidson story just broke online. It's bad. Really bad. I watch Mark's face as he receives a text, probably containing the same news. He looks like a man watching his world burn. I have to go, he says quietly. Mother's asking for her lawyers. He pauses at the bottom of the steps. You know what's funny? She always said you weren't strong enough for this family. Guess she was wrong about that too. After he leaves, I sit on the porch steps, staring at my phone as notifications flood in. The story is spreading fast. Vivian Harrison, prominent developer, caught in environmental scandal. Her empire beginning to crack. I should feel victorious. Instead, I remember the fear in her eyes at the meeting, so similar to what I'd felt when discovering Mark's packed boxes. The way revenge has turned me into someone who could hurt others without flinching. Sophie's car pulls up. She takes one look at my face and sits beside me. "What have I done?" I whisper. She takes my hand. "Exactly what she taught you to do." My phone lights up with another call, this time from Thomas Chen, probably wanting to discuss damage control, next steps, the pieces of Vivian's empire now up for grabs. I let it ring. St. Mary's Hospital smells like artificial lemons and regret. I've been sitting in the waiting room for an hour, turning my phone over and over in my hands, watching news alerts pile up about the Davidson scandal. Each headline feels like another brick in a wall I can't tear down. "You didn't have to come." Mark's voice startles me. He looks exhausted, suit wrinkled like he's been sleeping in it. "Your text said she's asking for me." "Ha, she is." He runs a hand through his hair, though I'm not sure if that's a good thing. The walk to Vivian's private room feels endless. Through the window, I see her propped up in bed, looking smaller somehow. Vulnerable. It's unsettling, like seeing a lion with its teeth pulled. "Clara!" Her voice is weaker than usual, but her eyes are sharp as ever. "Close the door." Mark hesitates. "Mother, maybe we should—" Out. One word, but it carries all her usual authority. He leaves, shoulders slumped. I remain standing, keeping my distance. "You wanted to see me?" "Sit." She gestures to the chair beside her bed. "We need to discuss terms." "Terms?" I almost laugh. "I'm not here to negotiate." "No?" She picks up her phone, taps something, then shows me the screen. My breath catches. It's an email chain between Mark and several Davidson project investors, dating back months. His signature on documents he shouldn't have signed, proof of his involvement in the cover-up. "You really think I wouldn't have insurance?" Her smile is thin. "Mark's fingerprints are all over this. One call, and he goes down with me." My hands clench. "You'd destroy your own son? To protect him from himself?" "In a heartbeat." She sets the phone down. "The question is, would you?" The monitor beeps steadily in the silence. Through the window, I see Mark pacing in the hallway, phone pressed to his ear, probably talking to lawyers already. "What do you want?" "Retraction, public statement claiming your evidence was misconstrued, technical error in the environmental reports." She lists each point like she's ordering dinner. In exchange, these emails disappear. My phone buzzes. Thomas Chen again. I've been dodging his calls since the story broke. And if I refuse? Then Mark faces criminal charges. His career, his reputation, everything gone. She adjusts her position, wincing slightly. "You've proven your point, Clara. You're stronger than I thought. But ask yourself, is revenge worth destroying the man you once loved?" Before I can answer, there's a commotion in the hallway. Sophie bursts in, ignoring the nurse's protests. "Clara, don't say anything else." She waves her tablet. The Davidson Group just released their own statement. They're claiming full responsibility for the environmental cover-up. They're saying Vivian was misled too. Vivian's monitor spikes briefly. "What?" Sophie continues. Thomas Chen's team found evidence that Davidson's own environmental department falsified initial reports before bringing you in. They're taking the fall to avoid bigger investigations. I watch the color drain from Vivian's face as she processes this. Her perfect insurance policy, worthless. Mark's involvement, now a minor footnote in someone else's scandal. "You should rest, Vivian." I stand, finally meeting her eyes. "Stress isn't good for your heart." She grabs my wrist as I turn to leave. Her grip is surprisingly strong. "This isn't over." "Actually, it is." I gently remove her hand. "You taught me well. Always have a backup plan. Always be 3 steps ahead. The Davidson Group owes me a favor from an old project. Calling it in was expensive, but worth it. You couldn't have known that you'd try to sacrifice your own son to save yourself? I moved toward the door. Maybe not, but I knew you'd try something. You're predictable that way. In the hallway, Mark stares at me like he's seeing me for the first time. The Davidson statement. Did you? You should call your lawyer, I tell him. Make sure you're protected when they start official investigations. And Mark? I pause, feeling the weight of Vivian's glare through the window. Maybe it's time to start making your own decisions. Sophie falls into step beside me as we leave. That was intense. You okay? I look back at the hospital room, where Vivian sits alone, her empire crumbling despite her desperate grab for control. The victory tastes different than I expected. Not sweet, not bitter, just empty. No, I answer honestly. But I will be. My phone buzzes again, another news alert about the scandal. I switch it off without reading it. Some victories don't need an audience. The charity gala feels like walking into a beautifully decorated trap. Crystal chandeliers throw fractured light across faces I've known for years. Clients, competitors, friends who've chosen sides in the wake of the Davidson scandal. Their whispers follow me like perfumed shadows. Quite brave of her to show up. Did you hear about Vivian's condition? I heard she orchestrated the whole thing. Sophie squeezes my arm. We can still leave. No. I straighten my spine, gripping my champagne flute like a shield. This is exactly where I need to be. Across the room, Mark stands with a group of investors, his usual confidence replaced by something more brittle. He catches my eye, then quickly looks away. The gesture feels like a preview of what's to come. Clara? Thomas Chen materializes beside me. A word? We move to a quieter corner, where the orchestra's music provides cover for conversation. His expression is grave. The Davidson Group is retracting their statement. The champagne turns sour in my mouth. They can't. We had a deal. They found better terms elsewhere. He glances meaningfully across the room, to where Vivian has just entered, looking remarkably recovered. She's speaking with Robert Davidson himself, their heads close together. That's impossible. The evidence has been re-examined. Thomas's voice is carefully neutral. New experts suggest different interpretations. My hands are tied. The room suddenly feels too warm, too crowded. When? The announcement goes out tomorrow morning. Clara. He hesitates. You might want to prepare for... Clara? Vivian's voice cuts through the murmur of conversation. She's walking toward us, Robert Davidson in tow. I'm so glad you came. We have something to discuss. The crowd parts around them like water. I feel dozens of eyes watching, waiting for the drama to unfold. This is what Vivian does best, turns private wars into public spectacles. I'm not interested in... Oh, but you should be. Her smile is razor sharp. Robert has just shared some fascinating insights about certain manipulated documents. Apparently, someone went to great lengths to create a very specific narrative. My heart pounds. The environmental reports, were perfectly accurate. Robert Davidson steps forward. The altered versions, however, seem to have originated from an interesting source. Your design firm's servers, to be precise. The champagne flute slips from my fingers, shattering on the marble floor. The crash draws every eye in the room. That's not possible. But even as I say it, I remember giving Thomas's team access to my systems, trusting them to handle the technical details. You set me up. Vivian's smile widens. I told you once that you weren't strong enough for this family. I should have been more specific. You're not smart enough either. Mark appears at her side, looking sick. Mother, please. Not now, dear. She turns to the gathering crowd. I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. As you may have heard, I've had some health challenges recently, but they've helped me realize what truly matters: family, loyalty, and truth. The word truth falls like a hammer. Several phones are out now, recording. Tomorrow's headlines writing themselves in real time. Clara thought she could destroy what I've built. Vivian's voice carries perfectly. Instead, she's demonstrated exactly why I was right about her all along. Amateur moves have amateur consequences. I look for Sophie, but she's been pushed to the edge of the crowd. Thomas Chen has vanished completely. The trap closes with elegant precision. Security will escort you out. Vivian's final twist of the knife. And Clara, expect to hear from our lawyers. Fraud charges are just the beginning. As two suited men approach, I catch a last glimpse of Mark's face. There's something there. Regret? Pity? But he doesn't move to help. Some patterns never change. Outside, the night air hits like a slap. Sophie rushes out behind me. Clara, wait! We can fix this! There must be something! Don't you see? My laugh sounds hysterical even to my own ears. She planned this from the moment I found those surveillance photos. Everything, the hospital, the Davidson statement, Thomas Chen, it was all part of her game. What are you going to do? I stare up at the gala's glittering windows, where life continues as if my world hasn't just imploded. Somewhere up there, Vivian is savoring her victory, probably already planning her next move. The only thing I can do. My voice steadies. Learn to play better. The flash drive feels impossibly heavy in my hand as I stand outside Vivian's office. Through the glass walls, I can see her at her desk, orchestrating her empire's recovery with practiced ease. The fraud charges against me are still pending, but she's already moved on to new victories. She looks up as I enter, her smile sharp as broken glass. Clara, security didn't mention you had an appointment. They're busy dealing with the press downstairs. I close the door behind me. Something about anonymous tips regarding offshore accounts and falsified insurance claims. The smile freezes. More desperate accusations? Haven't you learned? Actually, I learned exactly what you taught me. I placed the flash drive on her desk. About keeping receipts, about having insurance. She doesn't touch it. What is this? Everything. Your real financial records. The bribes to building inspectors. The money laundering through shell companies. I tap the drive. Even that interesting transfer to Thomas Chen's private account right before the gala. You're bluffing. Mark helped me find it. That lands. For the first time, real fear flickers across her face. Mark would never... Check your phone. She does, and I watch the color drain from her face as she reads whatever message Mark has just sent. When she looks up, her composure is cracked. What do you want? Funny. That's exactly what you asked me in the hospital. I sit down, uninvited. But I'm not here to negotiate. Then why? Because I want you to understand something. I lean forward. You didn't lose because I outsmarted you. You lost because you taught Mark the same lessons you taught me, about survival, about loyalty, about always having an escape plan. Her hand trembles slightly as she reaches for her phone again. I can still destroy you. One call. To who? The Davidson Group? I pull out my own phone, showing her the email chain. They're already distancing themselves. Seems their board doesn't appreciate being used in personal vendettas. Bad for business. A commotion rises from the lobby below. Through the glass walls, we can see reporters gathering, cameras ready. They're here for the press conference, I tell her. The one where Mark explains how his mother's company has been operating for the past decade. Unless what? Her voice is barely a whisper. Unless you sign everything over to him. Today. Let him run the company his way without your guidance. She laughs, but it sounds hollow. You think this will fix anything? That Mark will suddenly become his own man? No, but it gives him a chance. I stand. Which is more than you ever gave either of us. The elevator dings. Mark steps out, flanked by board members and lawyers. Through the glass, our eyes meet. He looks different, stronger maybe. Or just free. You've destroyed my family, Vivian says quietly. No, you did that yourself. I just showed Mark the evidence. She stares at the flash drive for a long moment. Below, the crowd of reporters grows. Her empire teeters on the edge of exposure, ready to crumble. He's my son, and he deserves better than what you've given him. I move toward the door. You have 10 minutes to decide. After that, Mark starts talking. You really think you've won? She calls after me. That this makes you better than me? I pause, hand on the doorknob. No, it makes me exactly like you. That's what scares you most, isn't it? The look on her face tells me I'm right. As I walk away, I hear her calling for her lawyers. Through the glass, I watch her pick up the flash drive with trembling fingers. Mark meets me at the elevator. Did she? Give her a minute. I press the lobby button. She taught us both about power, Mark. Now she gets to learn about losing it. He nods slowly. What happens after? That's up to you. The elevator starts descending. But whatever you decide, make sure it's actually your decision. As we reach the lobby, my phone buzzes. A message from Vivian's lawyer. She's ready to sign. You know, Mark says quietly, she'll never forgive either of us for this. I watch the numbers count down, floor by floor. Some victories aren't about forgiveness. The elevator doors open to camera flashes and shouted questions. Mark straightens his tie, ready to face them, ready to start over. I step back, letting him take the lead. Some battles you win by walking away. The moving boxes in Vivian's office look wrong somehow. Too ordinary for the end of an empire. She's taking down her awards when I arrive, each acrylic testament to her success carefully wrapped in newspaper. Come to gloat? She doesn't turn around. No. I set a folder on her desk. To return these. She glances at the surveillance photos spilling out. Keep them as a souvenir. I don't need souvenirs. I watch her hands shake slightly as she wraps another award. The company announcement went out this morning. Mark's doing well. He's gutting everything I built. Finally, she faces me. The past month has aged her decade. Was that your idea or his? You really still don't understand, do you? I pick up one of her photos. Her and Mark at some charity event, both smiling perfectly. He's not destroying your legacy, he's fixing it. Her laugh is bitter. By exposing our methods, canceling profitable contracts, that's not fixing, that's surrender. That's integrity. I set the photo down. Something you taught him to fake so well, he finally wanted the real thing. A knock interrupts us. Mark stands in the doorway, looking uncertain. These days, he always looks uncertain when his mother's involved, like he's still learning to trust his own judgment. The board meeting's starting, he tells her. They're waiting for your formal resignation. Vivian straightens her jacket. Armor for one last battle. I suppose you'll both enjoy watching this. Actually, I'm leaving. I move toward the door. This part isn't about me. Mark catches my arm as I pass. Clara, wait. I never thanked you. Don't. I gently pull away. Just do better, both with the company and... I glance at Vivian, still proud even in defeat, with family. Hey, is that what we are now? Vivian's voice stops me. Family? No, but maybe someday Mark can have one that doesn't run on fear. Outside, Sophie waits by her car. She's been my constant through all this, watching me become someone she probably doesn't fully recognize anymore. Ready for your meeting? She asks. I nod. My new design firm launches next week. Bigger projects, bigger clients, built on reputation rather than revenge. It feels strange, starting over. Good strange? I look back at the building where I first learned about power, both wielding it and surviving it. Through the windows, I can see Mark leading Vivian toward the boardroom, their shadows stretching long against the glass. Just strange. I get into the car. Did you know Vivian called me yesterday? Said she's finally proud of me, that I proved her right about what it takes to succeed in this world. Sophie starts the engine. Did you tell her where to stick her pride? No. I watch the building shrink in the side mirror. Because part of me thinks she's right. I became exactly what she always wanted Mark to be, someone willing to burn everything down to win. You're nothing like her, aren't I? I used her own tactics against her. Played her game, just better. I turn away from the mirror. The difference is, I chose to walk away after winning. She never could. Sophie navigates through traffic in silence for a moment. So what now? Now? I pull out my phone, where an email from Mark waits unread. Probably about the company transition, or maybe something more personal. I leave it unopened. Now I figure out who I am without revenge driving every decision. And if Vivian tries something else? I think about the final piece of leverage I still have. Evidence I never showed Mark. Proof of crimes that would destroy what's left of his relationship with his mother. It sits in a safe deposit box, my own insurance policy, my own piece of Vivian's legacy. Then I'll remember what winning really cost. I switch off my phone. Some victories feel like losses when you look at them right. Sophie pulls up to my new office building. The sign company is just finishing installing my company's logo. Clean, modern, nothing like the Harrison aesthetic. You know what the weird part is? I gather my things. I think Vivian finally respects me. Not for beating her, but for knowing when to stop. Is that enough? I step out into the morning sun, looking up at my name against the clear sky. It has to be. Otherwise, I'm just another version of her, waiting to self-destruct. The door closes behind me with a soft click, final as a period at the end of a very long sentence.
Retirees acting all high and mighty. Don't you dare come to my wedding. Alyssa laughed mockingly as she said this, ridiculing me. Far from stopping his daughter, Frank joined in the laughter. Why do I have to be subjected to such treatment? Was all the time we spent together meaningless? Is that really your wish? Of course. The ceremony would be ruined if that old hag showed up. Having reached my limit, I decided I could no longer hold back. If that's what they want, I'll let them have it. Perhaps I was never truly a part of their family from the start. Then, I turned to them with a smile. With pleasure. At that, they both looked taken aback. Leaving them behind, I contacted my parents. Sometime later, on the day of the wedding. As I relaxed at my parents' home, I received a call on my smartphone. The caller was Alyssa. Seeing her name, I answered the phone with a smile. This is all your fault. You had to meddle. Take responsibility. I couldn't help but suppress a laugh at Alyssa's frantic voice. I am Debbie Hansen, a 53-year-old part-time housewife. I've always struggled with anger, always enduring silently. Whether my brother took my toys or a friend broke a promise, I always bore it in silence. Debbie is such a kind child. But it's okay to say no if you dislike something, you know? That's right. Sometimes it's important to express anger. But Debbie is truly a kind child. My parents praised me like this and were always the ones to get angry on my behalf. They would lecture my brother and encourage me to have proper discussions with my friends. Growing up under their care made me hope to build a family like theirs one day. For your information, I have an older brother and a younger sister. Debbie, I'm going shopping. Need me to pick up anything? I'm good, thank you. My brother Ryan was quite rough as a child but has become a reliable figure. After being scolded by our parents numerous times and seeing my rare outbursts. However, his tendency to act rashly was his only flaw. Thankfully, his wife keeps him in check. And they have built a warm family blessed with a talented son. Brother doesn't get it, huh? Asking sister won't get you any answers. On the other hand, my sister Tracy was surprisingly smart for someone our parents also raised. As a child, she frequently followed me around asking, "What's this? What's that?" Over time, the roles reversed, and her intelligence even amazed me and my brother. She seems to have a partner she lives with, but she has chosen to live freely without marrying. Well, to each their own. Build your own kind of family. Despite choosing different paths, our parents have always warmly supported us. As for me, I am also married. I have a daughter, but there is no blood relation between us. My husband, Frank, was a divorced single father when we married. According to him, his ex-wife had cheated and left. And then, I was told that his daughter was in middle school at the time. Hearing that, I honestly hesitated, but then Alyssa said, "I always wanted a mom like you, Debbie." That single statement made up my mind. I will become your mother, Alyssa. Thank you, Debbie. So, I chose to be her mother. Frank thanked me repeatedly, and Alyssa, with a full smile, was delighted. With these two, I felt it would be okay. Striving to build our own family, I struggled every day. Soon after marrying Frank, Alyssa's attitude changed. "Hey, maid. Wash my clothes." Alyssa began referring to me not as a mom but as a maid, and started ordering me around. Hold on, Alyssa. I'm not a maid, and you shouldn't speak so rudely when asking for something. Don't talk back, maid. Just quietly do as I say. Alyssa was clearly defiant. Was the girl who sweetly asked me to be her mom just acting? Maid, huh? That's a good expression. Instead of scolding Alyssa, Frank only laughed. Realizing this couldn't continue, I waited until Alyssa was asleep to talk to Frank. Hey, Frank. Don't you think Alyssa's attitude towards me is awful? Is it? Is it? I'd like a little support here. You're just laughing along with her. Frank responded with a troubled smile and then apologized. She's just going through adolescence. It can't be helped. I'm sure she'll change once she calms down. Please wait until then. I think she's probably wary of the mother figure. Told this, I fell silent. True, her way of speaking was harsh. But Alyssa was essentially abandoned by her biological mother. On top of that, during her complicated teenage years, a stranger became her mother. Despite her asking me to be her mom, perhaps she couldn't accept it so easily. Thinking this, I decided to endure until she calmed down. I'll support you as best I can. Frank said this, which encouraged me to keep trying. However, she never seemed to settle down. The food is awful. The cleaning isn't thorough. I don't like how you fold the clothes. And so on. She complained like a mother-in-law every day, and gradually, I became worn out. I'm really sorry. But once she gets married, she'll move out. Then it'll be just the two of us, living quietly. Just bear with it for now. I hung on to those words from Frank. Still, I must have looked tired. Sis, can we talk for a bit? My sister, who worked at the same place, approached me. You look tired. Is your marriage not going well? I chuckled bitterly at her words. Realizing I couldn't hide it, I decided to vent a little. She's really taking liberties, huh? Maybe you should stand up for yourself more. She's having a tough time. When I said that, she replied, Sis, you're too lenient. I just smiled wryly. She's always been straightforward. Well, I shouldn't get too involved in this. Saying that, my sister stepped back. Still, she added, but if anything happens, make sure you talk to me. Thanks for listening. I feel a bit lighter now. Feeling a bit more at ease, I thought about how to interact with Alyssa moving forward. Getting Frank's cooperation was key. I decided to talk to him when I got home. Despite my hopes, Alyssa's attitude did not change. Hey, old hag. I'm going out with friends, so give me some pocket money. It seemed to have worsened. Since entering high school, she had repeatedly asked for money. And her way of addressing me shifted from maid to old hag. Frank, about Alyssa. You need to talk to her too. Stop nagging. I consulted Frank many times. Initially, he said, sorry, and it's just for now. But his attitude changed completely after he learned I had vented to my sister. Alyssa disrespects you because you're not making enough effort. But I've tried to be close to her. But she won't listen to me. That's why I want you to. What, you're saying it's me and Alyssa's fault? You're terrible. Saying that, he started playing a mobile game. He completely stopped listening to me. Lately, just mentioning Alyssa's name would provoke him. Don't tell me. It's none of my business. Just focus on your chores and work. These days, I found myself holding my head in frustration. Still hoping, I tried to bring up Alyssa today. Old hag, give me some money. I don't want to eat your food, so I'm going out. Alyssa had just returned. She threw her bag on the table roughly and extended her hand as if demanding money immediately. Didn't I give you pocket money just recently? Besides, I make food considering your health. Also, please treat things with care. Your lectures are just noise. Even as I tried to admonish her, she responded with an annoyed look. In desperation, I looked to Frank for help. You're the mother, right? Then listen to your daughter. Those words hit me like a shock. I froze, feeling betrayed, while Alyssa, for the first time in a while, smiled broadly. Dad gets it. But this old hag isn't my mother. That might be true. Frank laughed at Alyssa's words. The man I met as a business partner, who was once kind and considerate, had changed. And when he invited me to dinner, talking about Alyssa. My wife cheated and left us. Both my daughter and I were deeply hurt, he had said. He had disclosed his divorce and daughter's situation early, making me believe he was sincere. I decided to marry him, wanting to support him. But now, he and Alyssa disregarded me, laughing together. Alyssa, I'll treat you to some good food. Yay! Oh, clean this up. While I stood there dumbfounded, the two of them left. Left alone in the living room, I picked up my phone. The first contact I pulled up was my reliable brother's. No, it might cause him to act rashly. My brother would surely try to help, but he might overreact. My sister was recently put in charge of a major project and seemed too busy to bother. I didn't want to worry my parents about my situation either. So, I decided not to make the call. Just a little longer. Just a bit more patience. Once Alyssa gets married and moves out, Frank will surely change. He'll apologize for everything and start listening to me. With that hope, I chose to endure. Alyssa then went on to college. How's college? Meh. I'm not particularly interested in learning anything. She said, spending her days hanging out. She constantly asked for money and came home late. I wish she could just live on her own. That's what I was thinking when I returned home. You're back? Oh, you startled me. For some reason, Frank was home. His job at a major corporation usually keeps him busy, and he generally comes home later than I do. So, I didn't expect him to be there and was momentarily frozen in surprise. What are you doing here?
Oh,
I've switched to remote work. I see. While responding, I felt a rare moment of connection like we used to have. Lately, I've been too irritated to even initiate conversation. Oh, Dad's home. At that moment, unusually, Alyssa came home early. She seemed surprised to see her father but smiled happily when she heard about his remote work. Does that mean you're so competent that you get to work remotely?
oh, yeah.
Well, yes. Frank nodded, somewhat flustered. Recently, Alyssa hadn't been smiling or talking much to Frank either. So his confusion was apparent when she suddenly spoke to him with a smile. Compared to that, the old hag is useless, huh? Alyssa laughed mockingly as she turned to me. My uplifted spirits immediately plummeted. Disappointment also washed over me when Frank joined her in laughter. My job requires me to be on site. So, you mean the old hag can only handle that much? I'm glad Dad is so capable. From then on, Alyssa mocked me even more. Whenever we met, she would say, "Useless old hag." Or, "You'll probably get fired soon and live off a pension." Moreover, Frank began to mock me too and stopped contributing to the household expenses. "There's no money for you. Earn it yourself." My complaints fell on deaf ears. After graduating from college, Alyssa didn't get a job and only worked part-time occasionally. Frank was home but did nothing around the house. The burden of work and chores was accumulating, and I was growing increasingly tired. The thought of divorce began to cross my mind. I'm home. Dad, guess what? One day, Alyssa came home in a great mood. Apparently, she had decided to marry her boyfriend. Hearing this, I felt a slight hope that Alyssa would finally move out. So, I want to have a grand wedding. But since his side is paying for the new home and honeymoon, they asked if we could split the wedding costs. Frank looked at me as Alyssa said this. Given how lenient Frank usually was with Alyssa, I was puzzled, expecting him to readily agree to cover the wedding expenses. That's great. Will you introduce us to your fiancé? We shouldn't waste time introducing him to the old hag. But I want to show him off, so I'll let you meet him. And so, I was granted a chance to meet Alyssa's fiancé. Debbie, can I talk to you for a moment? That evening, after Alyssa went to her room, Frank asked me for a favor. Despite some hesitation, I agreed. The day Alyssa brought her fiancé home finally arrived. Oh? I was startled to see him, and he seemed just as surprised. Nice to meet you. I'm Brian Smith, engaged to Alyssa. However, he soon acted as if it was our first meeting, so I responded in kind. The meeting went smoothly, and by the end, Frank seemed to have taken a liking to him. In a good mood, Frank pulled out a checkbook. Use this for the wedding expenses. Thank you. What, $30,000? Wow, thanks, Dad. As the two expressed their gratitude, Frank's mood improved even further. After exchanging contact information, Brian left. He seems like a good person. Take good care of him. Why are you acting all high and mighty? You're not involved. Not involved? I inadvertently looked at Alyssa, and she directed a cold gaze back at me. Are you satisfied now? Can we leave it at that? Wait a minute. What do you mean by that? Exactly what I said. I don't want the old hag at my wedding, so don't attend. Stunned by her words, I lost my voice for a moment. Even though I wanted to attend as her mother, she harshly replied, "You're not my mother." But I've raised you as a mother all these years? Retirees acting all high and mighty. Don't you dare come to my wedding. Alyssa laughed mockingly as she said this, ridiculing me. Far from stopping his daughter, Frank joined in the laughter. Why do I have to be subjected to such treatment? Was all the time we spent together meaningless? Is that really your wish? Of course. The ceremony would be ruined if that old hag showed up. Having reached my limit, I decided I could no longer hold back. If that's what they want, I'll let them have it. Perhaps I was never truly a part of their family from the start. Then, I turned to them with a smile. With pleasure. With that, both of them looked dumbfounded. Leaving them behind, I contacted my parents. They immediately accepted me back. So I packed my bags and returned to my parents' house, thinking they deserved to learn their lesson. After a while, it was the day of the wedding. I knew today was the wedding day from the bragging emails I received from Alyssa and Frank. I bet they're having a tough time now. As I relaxed at my parents' house, I received a call on my smartphone. The caller was Alyssa. Seeing her name, I answered the phone with a smile. This is all your fault. You had to meddle. Take responsibility. I couldn't help but suppress a laugh at Alyssa's frantic voice. What are you laughing at? How are you going to take responsibility? Calm down. I can't understand what you're saying. Don't joke with me. Alyssa continued to scream, now uttering words that made no sense. Hey, it's me. Then, the voice on the phone changed to Frank's. Apparently, none of the groom's relatives showed up. And the groom suddenly played an audio recording. The content was a recording of the two of them berating me. And then, to those who came to the ceremony, he declared, I do not wish to marry someone like this, so the engagement is off. You were the only one who could have recorded that audio. That was your doing, wasn't it? Frank's voice contained anger. He was trying to stay calm and hear me out. Indeed, I was the one who passed on that recording. Having considered divorce, I had consulted a lawyer friend. He advised me to record their derogatory comments, and I had recently recorded their latest insults. This time, I had given a copy of that recording to Brian. I had to protect my dear nephew from people like you. I could tell that time stopped on the other end of the phone. After a few seconds, Frank spoke in a strained voice. Nephew? Yes, the groom, Brian Smith, is my nephew. Well, you never bothered to learn about my relatives, so maybe you didn't know. Indeed, my shock at the introduction was because he was my nephew. I heard Alyssa's voice exclaim, that's a lie. It seemed they had put me on speaker. It's true. His voice came through, with my nephew Brian next to me. Actually, he was with me when I answered the call. And I had put it on speaker to let him hear everything. Why is Brian there? I'm not marrying you, and I already said I was leaving, right? I've already informed the staff, so there's no problem. Brian explained in a cold voice. Hearing his voice for the first time in that tone, Alyssa, who had been yelling nonstop, fell silent. Honestly, I'm disappointed in you. Oh, and just so you know, another aunt came up with this plan, and I agreed. In fact, Aunt Debbie tried to stop it. To neglect such a kind mother is unthinkable. You're the worst. With that, Brian hung up the phone. Then, smiling, he said, yes. I also responded with a smile. When I arrived at my parents' house that day, my parents and siblings were there to greet me. What a situation. Not interfering because it's a complicated family was a mistake. Sorry, we should have paid more attention. When I told them what had happened, everyone was angry at Frank and Alyssa's actions. They also said I should have consulted them sooner. While smiling wryly, I looked at Brian, my brother's son who was with me. Aunt Debbie. I'm returning this. With that, he handed me the checkbook with the $30,000. By that point, he must have decided not to marry. It also serves as severance. Please use it for the wedding expenses. However, as an aunt, I cannot endorse a marriage with her. Please tell me more about Alyssa. I then detailed the treatment I had endured from her. This made my family even angrier. During this, Brian pondered with his eyes closed. I will annul the engagement. Having made his decision, he asked about Alyssa's usual demeanor. She is kind and considerate on the surface. That's why she has many friends, and many are deceived by her. That means if we break off the engagement unilaterally, she might spread strange rumors. Her facade might be inherited from Frank. After all, I was completely fooled into marrying him. How about this? Then, my sister came up with a plan to reveal her true nature at the wedding. Honestly, I wondered if it was right to do such a thing at an important wedding. But everyone, including Brian, agreed. Sis, do you have anything that could be useful? Responding to her, I brought out the recordings. After reviewing the content, my sister frowned and made a copy for Brian. Then kept the original herself. Then, please handle it on the day. So, on the wedding day, everyone except Brian would be absent to prepare various things. My sister passed the audio to the lawyer I had consulted, who was her live-in partner, to prepare for the divorce. Is it okay to move all the new furniture? Yes, please do. My brother and I decided to prepare for the move together. Most of the furniture and appliances in that house were purchased by me. So, we took them with us to our new home. After fulfilling our respective roles, we were having a thank you gathering at our parents' house. You need to be better at judging character. I'm truly embarrassed. We all listened to the recent exchange between Alyssa and the others. Now that Brian has done his part, it's my turn. Holding the divorce papers, I muttered. All my patience might have been for nothing. But I knew I couldn't stay with him any longer. I'm coming with you. So it's going to be okay. Hearing my mutter, my brother reassured me. He really is reliable. Thank you. Just, don't go overboard, okay? I know. I'm coming too. I was truly grateful to have my siblings. With these dependable too. I was able to laugh from the bottom of my heart for the first time in a long while. Later, my brother, sister, and I visited that house. We had keys, but I rang the doorbell anyway. Debbie. What on earth are you thinking? Frank, angry, came out and went pale when he noticed my brother. My brother works in construction and is well built. Frank, who is all flab with no muscle, stood no chance. It seems my sister has caused you a lot of trouble. As my brother cracked his knuckles and glared, Frank stammered and averted his eyes. Let's talk properly, shall we? With a smile, I said that to Frank. Then, we entered the house. Oh, you. How dare you show your face here? It's all your fault everything turned out so badly. Inside, Alyssa was there and started yelling at me as soon as she saw me. After everything that's been recorded and the ordeal she went through. Does she not learn? I've got that on tape now. Saying so, my sister showed Alyssa the recording screen of her smartphone. Alyssa fell silent with a demonic expression. About the audio Brian played at the wedding. The original data has been handed to a lawyer. The lawyer said we could claim damages. Wait. Anything but that? Interrupted by my words, Frank, who had been silenced by my brother's glare, spoke in desperation. He was begging me, please spare me that. Alyssa looked at her father with a puzzled expression. Well, you'd be in trouble, wouldn't you? Since you've been laid off. Frank's face turned even paler when I spoke. He had confessed the truth to me on the day Alyssa mentioned her fiancé was coming over. Actually, I wasn't switched to remote work, I was laid off. So, I can't prepare any money. That's why he asked me to cover the wedding expenses. I pondered it, and even though we had finally become a family, I agreed. And to uphold his dignity, I let him pass the money through his hands. That's a lie. Dad was laid off? And there's no way someone on a pension could have prepared $30,000. She couldn't believe that her father was actually a laid-off old man. First of all, I'm not old enough to receive a pension. I'm in my 50s. There's no way I could be receiving a pension yet. I never thought they could be this ignorant. Besides, I happen to be an executive, you know? Saying that, Alyssa looked at me dumbfounded. Actually, I am a managing director. I have climbed to this position by contributing significantly to the company. That can't be. If our sister hadn't been earning, you two wouldn't have been able to live at all. While saying this, my sister showed her a web page where I was introduced as an executive. Seeing that, Alyssa ran out of arguments and seemed to be lost for words. She opened and closed her mouth for a while, then looked down, turning pale. So, let's get this divorce over with quickly, shall we? With that, I handed the divorce papers to Frank. After comparing my face with the divorce papers for a few seconds, he suddenly knelt down. I'm truly sorry. You're all I have. I'll cut ties with Alyssa too. Huh? What are you saying? At Frank's words, Alyssa screamed. And then, a parent-child argument began between the two of them. And something inside me snapped. Just submit it now. Don't waste any more of my time. Yelling that, both of their bodies stiffened. I've endured your abuse for far too long. I handled all the household and work. And what were you two doing? Who's the useless one here? I declared, and their faces turned pale. Despite that, my anger did not subside. All you need to do is submitting this divorce form. And never bother me again. Got it? Just do it. Yes, yes. Under my glare, Frank shakily received the divorce papers. Alyssa was completely intimidated. Debbie has always been scary when she gets angry. My brother muttered, watching the two. And so, Frank and I officially divorced. Thanks to him, I got the compensation without a hitch. Make sure to thank him. Got it. But as a punishment for not consulting us sooner, you owe us dinner next time. Of course, that's fair. Thanks to my sister's live-in partner, we successfully recovered the compensation. Afterwards, it seems Frank and Alyssa had a huge fight. Without me as a common enemy, their relationship quickly deteriorated to its worst. They blamed each other, and it escalated into a full-blown argument with objects flying around. However, neither of them had any money left. Their savings were depleted due to the compensation. And the cost of replacing the furniture and appliances I took with me. So, what happened to those two? It seems they tried to separate but failed. Alyssa apparently tried to rely on friends to get away from Frank. However, those friends had witnessed her behavior towards me at the wedding. You said your stepmom was harassing you, but it was the other way around. You're the worst. She was cut off and left without any help. Frank's parents had already passed away, so he had no one else to turn to. Reluctantly, they continued to live together. Meanwhile, Frank tried to seek help from his ex-wife. Of course, she refused him entry. She literally sent him away. I did some digging, and it turns out his ex-wife didn't leave because of an affair. Oh, really? According to my sister's research, the divorce wasn't the ex-wife's fault but rather Frank's. It seems Frank had treated his ex-wife in the same way Alyssa treated me. Consequently, his ex-wife used her family and friends to get a divorce in a hurry. Rather than abandoning Alyssa. She was rejected by her mother due to her collusion in mistreating me. So, he twisted the story to make it convenient for himself. Fooling everyone around him. Frank was laid off because it was discovered he had been harassing subordinates. And shirking his responsibilities. Frank really knows how to deceive people. If it weren't for my family's help, I might have ended up being rumored as the cruel stepmother who harassed her stepchild. I wish I had known all this sooner. Well, sister, what are you going to do now? Think about remarrying? No, I think I'll live freely on my own for a while. Maybe I was too hasty in wanting to be like my parents or to build a lovely family like my brothers. That's how I ended up with someone like Frank. For now, living freely on my own seems like a good idea. Unlike them, I have plenty of money. By the way, Brian was confessed to by one of the friends who attended the wedding. Oh, that's nice. Being young must be wonderful. Brian started dating the friend who confessed to him. When Alyssa found out, she reportedly had a meltdown. Since Brian is a good kid, much like his sister-in-law, I hope he finds happiness this time. Yes, it's a beautiful day. Shall we go for a walk? Saying that, I called out to my indoor dog, Lucky, who energetically responded. Since then, I had decided to keep a dog. Lucky, who adores me purely, brings me comfort every day. My parents are also smitten with Lucky, taking care of him during the day when I'm at work. Right, I also need to buy a wedding gift. Brian was soon to marry the girl who confessed to him. She is genuinely a good person, and everyone feels relieved. My brother said with a smile, it's finally settling down. He and his wife can now continue to live their sweet life together. His wife blushed and playfully hit him on the shoulder. But her embarrassed face showed she didn't really mind. I guess there was no need to rush into marriage. This kind of life suits me better. Muttering so, I prepared for the walk as Lucky eagerly nudged me. This walk might lead to a new encounter, potentially building a truly happy home this time.
Hey. How are you doing? Wait a minute. Where are you right now? A week had passed since my husband and in-laws moved without telling me anything. That's when I got the call. Huh? Why do I have to say such things? Are you stupid? What do you mean by that? Seriously, what a noisy woman. I'll forgive you if you apologize. Also, if you work as a housekeeper, I'll even give you the keys to the house. How about that? Isn't it a good proposal? I couldn't help but sigh at the absurdity. Who would do such a thing? For someone useless like you. Isn't that more like you? Huh? How dare you? I could hear my husband talking to someone over the phone. Huh? Yes, I understand. It was probably. My mom wants to talk. Without my consent, he handed the phone to his mother. Hello, can you hear me? I can hear you, but... Oh, you were alive. What did you say? Because you are unemployed now, right? I've heard about it. You really deceived me, what a scummy woman. My husband had lied to his mother to protect his pride. Who really is the scum here? I thought. What should I do? Why are you silent? Say something quickly? Hearing those words made my blood rush to my head. It's bad to say, but I'll teach this misunderstanding old woman over the phone. The truth about my husband. It seems you are mistaken, so let me tell you the truth, it wasn't me who got fired. It looks bad now. Isn't that more on your side? Huh? Such nonsense. It seemed like the irritation of my mother-in-law would not stop. I'm not joking. After all, the luxury you've been living in is thanks to me. Enough already. I never thought the conversation would be this incomprehensible. No matter how much more time I spend telling the truth, she wouldn't listen. That's when I made up my mind. Then, I'll divorce your unemployed good-for-nothing son. Huh? Do you understand what you're saying? Even if you do that, you're the one who will suffer. Don't worry. Rather, you should be the one worried. This is not going anywhere. If you're going to hang up, you might want to ask about the firing. As I said that, the call ended. About 5 minutes later, my husband called again. Probably after talking to his mother. However, I did not answer the phone. I thought. Now, let them suffer a bit more. And I waited for the opportunity. Thanks to that, what awaited my husband and in-laws was not just hell. I am Ashley, and my siblings have been running a company passed down from our grandfather. My brother Phil is the president, and my sister Emma is an executive. As for me, I am the manager of several apartment buildings inherited from my father. I have enough income just from the rent. I met Joey when I was 33 years old. The catalyst was my sister Emma. Sister, isn't it about time you got married? Huh? What's this all of a sudden? You're at a good age, so I thought it's about time. How can I get married when there's no one? Leave that to me. A week later, my sister introduced me to Joey, a friend from her university days. My first impression was that he was a well-groomed young man. As someone who had only focused on work, I didn't know what to talk about. Then, have fun just the two of you. Wait, Emma. My sister left laughing. Left alone, I realized he was younger than me since he was a friend of my sister's. I thought. I, as the older one, need to be responsible. Shall we go then? Yes. Both of us, still nervous, entered a nearby restaurant. We ordered drinks and gulped them down immediately. Thanks to that, it seemed like our tension eased. I'm sorry about today. Emma did it on her own. No, it's fine. Actually, I wanted to meet you. Huh? You mean? Actually, I've heard about you from Emma. She's been talking about you ever since college. That girl really. According to Joey, Emma had been bragging about me a lot. We spent about 2 hours together and then decided to part ways for the day. See you then? Ah, wait. Can I have your contact if it's okay? Right. We haven't exchanged it yet. Thus, we exchanged contact information and started going on regular dates. So when are you going to get married, big sis? It's too soon. Not really. How long have you been dating? About 6 months? Then, there's no problem, right? You think it's someone else's problem. In fact, Joey confessed to me a week after Emma introduced us. I was surprised, but it didn't feel bad. I accepted his confession. And 6 months passed. I had been thinking about getting married eventually, but I hesitated to bring it up myself. Since I am older, I thought it might pressure him. One day, while I was thinking about this, I have something important to discuss today. Understood. I'll meet you at the usual place after work. Then, see you later. The call was during lunch break, and I could hardly concentrate on my work for the rest of the afternoon. It's no wonder. Nobody would not be conscious after hearing such things. That day, I was proposed to. I was somewhat prepared, but when actually asked to marry him, I wondered if I really was the right person. So, what's your answer? Please take care of me. However, what followed was challenging. The next thing was to greet the parents. Both of my parents warmly welcomed our marriage. Only the greeting to my in-laws was left. However, what about greeting your parents? Ah, about that. Yes? Joey's expression was dark. It even seemed like he didn't want to go. I have a little request. I want you to keep quiet about your job. What do you mean? It's fine with my father, but my mother. According to Joey, my mother-in-law had a weirdly high pride and believed that it was unthinkable for a wife to earn more than her husband. Apparently, his late grandmother also had such a personality, and she had thoroughly inherited it. So please, adjust the story a bit. Joey pleaded. When he did that, I couldn't say no, but I was anxious. It's okay to hide it, but can we keep it hidden forever? I think it will be okay. He didn't explain specifically at that time, but I had no choice but to trust his words. And a week later, we went to his parents' house. Are you okay? I'm getting a bit nervous. I'm here with you. And just as we discussed beforehand. I know. When Joey pressed the doorbell, my mother-in-law came to greet us. Good of you to come. Come in. Thank you for having us. We were led to the living room, where the father-in-law was waiting. Good you came. Take a seat. Yes. I glanced sideways, and Joey seemed to be nervous too. We came because I have an important talk. I intend to marry Ashley. I see. Ashley, do you work? I anticipated such a question. In the preliminary discussion, we decided I would say I'm doing clerical work through a temp agency. It wasn't all a lie, as I occasionally helped out at my brother's company. That's why we decided on that. Currently, I am doing clerical work. I see. What does your father think? It should be fine. So, it's okay for us to get married, right? Yes. There's no reason to oppose. Thank you. While making small talk, I went to the bathroom. When I was about to return to the living room. Wait a moment. Yes. I thought it was unfortunate to meet her at such a place. What is that? What do you mean? Wearing something that looks so expensive. She was pointing at the necklace. Ah, this is. As you're going to be a wife from now on, you don't need such things. Take it off right here, right now. Excuse me? Shall I take it off for you? My mother-in-law tried to snatch my necklace. It's okay. I can do it myself. I immediately took off the necklace. It was actually a birthday present from Joey. I tried to explain it several times, but it seemed that my mother-in-law took it as an excuse. Also, I don't like your outfit either. Showing so much leg. It's indecent. I wondered why I had to be criticized to this extent. Perhaps thinking I was taking too long, Joey came to see what was happening. What are you doing here? We were just talking. We'll be back soon. Okay. Understood. My mother-in-law interrupted me. Remember what I just said. I'll be coming over regularly to check up. What do you say? I understand. I had no right to refuse at that moment. Rather, I was just too exhausted from being unilaterally criticized. I returned to the living room, but I didn't say anything. I didn't want to say anything wrong and be criticized. Is something wrong? It's nothing. I blamed Joey in my mind, but it wouldn't help to show that attitude towards him. I just wanted to leave his house as soon as possible. I don't quite remember what was discussed afterward. Thus, we got a provisional approval and returned to Joey's house. For now, we need to look for a house for us to live in together. Yes. We went to look at properties, but I couldn't get my mother-in-law's words out of my head. Before I knew it, I had signed the lease in my name. I hadn't thought this would lead to a major problem later. Thus, we became husband and wife, but the smooth sailing was only at the beginning. For now, let's keep it hidden from my mom. Can we really do that? It'll be fine. Joey's baseless confidence only made me anxious, and it became a reality. We tried to avoid dealing with the in-laws as much as possible. A month after we got married, I came home from work to unexpectedly find my mother-in-law there. Mother. Why are you here? Well, I came to check on you. What were you doing until this time? I was at work. But you're a secretary, right? Isn't it too late even for that? I looked at Joey, and he was shaking his head sideways. It seemed he wanted me to keep hiding it. I had to work overtime today. Saying that, did you really just go out and come back late? I did not do such a thing. I wonder. Mom, that's enough. But. Anyway, we are doing fine without any problems. With that word from Joey, my mother-in-law reluctantly left. Sorry. I didn't expect her to come to the house. Maybe we should tell her the truth? It's okay. Leave it to me. But essentially, we are deceiving her. Enough. Don't say the same thing over and over. Was it necessary for me to be told so much? Despite being newly married, I gradually began to distrust Joey. However, there was a good aspect. Whether Joey's words had an effect or not, my mother-in-law stopped coming over. I thought I could finally relax, but I felt a further anomaly one day at noon. Huh? Why are Joey's shoes here? I cautiously entered the house. Then I found Joey lying on the sofa, drinking alcohol. What are you doing? Whoa. Apparently surprised, he dropped the can of beer he was holding. Why are you here? I came back because I forgot something. More importantly, what happened to your work? I wasn't feeling well, so I left early. But you seem to be drinking. Does that mean you're cured? Look. They say alcohol is the best medicine. Even so, you seem to be drinking quite a bit? Looking at the table, there were already 6 empty beer cans. That's supposed to be in moderation, right? I think drinking too much defeats the purpose. Joey fell silent. I went to the bedroom to fetch the document I had forgotten. Glancing at the living room, despite my earlier caution, he was now gulping down sake. Come on, stop it. Huh? Isn't it about time you didn't have time for this? I'll ask you in detail when I get back. Take care. I really wanted to question him thoroughly right then, but as Joey said, I didn't have the time. Is something bothering you? No, not really. You look down, just like Phil said. Sorry. I'm really fine. Could it be something with Joey? Why would you think that? Just a feeling. I guess that's the only thing I can think of. I didn't know what to say. Let's focus on work for now. Yeah. Right. After work, we siblings gathered. So? What's troubling you? You don't have to tell anyone else. So feel free to talk. Thank you. Here, I explained about my mother-in-law and Joey's current situation. That's... Sorry. I had no idea it had come to that. It's not your fault, Emma. But what will you do now? Should I talk to him? That might just make things worse. Didn't we just agree to keep this between us? Maybe, but I was touched that they had thought it through so much. For now, I'll try talking to him in more detail. That sounds good. I'm here to help whenever you need. Thank you for that. After this conversation, I returned home. However, Joey was not there. The alcohol had been neatly cleaned up. I thought, where has he gone? I tried calling him, but there was no response. Joey didn't return until the next morning. Where have you been? I just went to my parents' house. Mom suddenly called me. What's so funny about that? Huh? You didn't answer your phone, and you really went to your parents? You could have at least called, right? What are you trying to say? If that's what you think, why don't you call my mom? Don't say such nonsense. Since it was already time to leave for work, I left the house. When I arrived at the office, I got a call from my mother-in-law. Hello? What do you think you've done? I don't follow. You doubted Joey? Because he didn't answer his phone. Getting angry over that. You really are petty. My mother-in-law continued to berate me afterward. She even went so far as to call me useless. I couldn't stand being insulted anymore and snapped back. There's no reason for me to be spoken to like that. What did you say? Please don't say such nonsense. I have work, so I'm going now. I unilaterally ended the call. Having held back until now, I felt a great sense of relief. Feeling a sense of accomplishment for getting through the day, I returned home where Joey had some harsh words for me. I heard you said something terrible to my mom? It wasn't terrible. I just said what was obvious. Don't joke around. What do you think of someone's parents? Then you shouldn't do things that make you suspicious. Fine. I have my own ideas then. Saying this, he started making a call while laughing. After the call, Joey said, Look forward to it. The situation took a sudden turn 3 days later. What's going on? Boxes were continuously brought into the house. Confused and stunned, I went outside, where Joey appeared with his parents. Why are you so surprised? I told you to look forward to it. We'll be in your care from now on. I just follow what Mom says. That's when I understood everything. Without telling me, Joey had planned for us to live together. That was what the phone call was about. Isn't this a bit tyrannical? Why? Joey suggested we live together because he's worried about us. He's really a wonderful son. But there's no room available. That's strange. Joey told us 2 rooms were available, right? Those 2 rooms were intended for when we had children, not for living with his parents. However, since the moving of belongings was already completed, there was nothing I could do. From this day on, my life would become a nightmare. Is breakfast not ready yet? It's way too early for that. That's none of our concern. If I had overslept, it would be another story, but it was only 5 a.m. at this point. From that day on, I started waking up at 4 a.m. This was just the beginning. However, something happened that made me decide to take revenge on Joey and his family. I ended up doing all the household chores. It wasn't that I wanted to. It was because no one else would do it. I thought I would break down if this continued, so I consulted my brothers again. What the hell is that? That's just unacceptable. Leave it to us. My brothers came to our house after work. They were there to speak their minds to Joey and his family. Huh? Brother? And Emma, what are you doing here? We heard you've been doing whatever you want? I would never do such a thing. Really? We heard you just moved in without asking. And you leave all the household chores to Ashley. That's not true. There was a misunderstanding. Anyway, leave this matter to me. I'll explain everything to our parents. So he says. That's fine, right? I had relied on my brothers, but I couldn't trouble them any more than this. That's fine. We're counting on you then. The in-laws were out for the day. I don't know what would have happened if they had been home. You really did something unnecessary. You shouldn't have done this from the start. Aren't you embarrassed to rely on your siblings? While Joey and I were arguing, his parents came back. What's all this noise? We could hear you outside. Listen, Ashley went and told her brothers. Tattling? Yes. She's making us out to be the bad guys. The audacity of a daughter-in-law. Actually, aren't you the ones at fault? Moving in without permission. Not doing anything around the house. That's only natural. Apparently, some punishment is necessary. Then Joey seemed to have an idea. It would be trouble if they come over again. Ah. I've got a great idea. Joey whispered to his mother. That's a good idea. Your siblings run a company, right? Yes, but if that company gets a bad reputation, it would be a disaster, right? It might even go under. What are you thinking? This is what I mean. Saying this, Joey showed me his smartphone. On the screen was false information about my brother's company. If you listen to us, we'll leave this as is. But if you do something unnecessary again, you're going to spread that online? Exactly. So don't ever do something like this again. It was essentially a threat. I had no choice but to comply to protect my brothers. However, Joey's tyranny wasn't just that. One day when his parents weren't around. I think you've realized, but I quit my job. Did you really quit by yourself? What are you implying? Just curious. At this point, it doesn't matter, does it? Yeah, you're right. Like you said, I got fired. Why? Various reasons. It's not important. I thought I had heard something useful. And don't you dare tell my parents. Why not? Isn't it obvious? Well, what are we going to do about living expenses now? Joey fell silent. Well, I guess I'll have to figure it out. I've been doing so up until now anyway. You might have forgotten, but I've been paying the rent and living expenses. Just don't do anything unnecessary. Months passed, and to Joey and his family, I was nearly a slave. I could only despair about how long this would continue. Today, there was an important meeting at my brother's company, so I was there. The meeting lasted until the evening, and I didn't get home until after 8 p.m. As soon as I arrived, I noticed something was off. There was no sign of anyone. The moment I entered the house, I was speechless. It was clearly desolate. I thought, could it be? I checked each room, but all the belongings were gone. I sat down on the spot, overwhelmed. I called my brother. What's up? Can you come to the house right now? Got it. I'll be there soon. About 30 minutes later, my brother arrived with my sister. What the hell happened here? There's nothing here. They moved out without telling me. Seriously, why would they do something like this? Huh? What's this? What's wrong? There's something on the table. What? What my brother found was a note apparently written by Joey. It read, "We are fine without you. So, we decided to move out. Thanks for the cash in the drawer, it was helpful." What's this about cash in the drawer? I hurried to the bedroom to check the dresser. The money I had hidden there was all gone. Could it be gone? They took everything. It had contained nearly $10,000. I messed up. I never thought they'd notice. But what are we going to do now? Although my brother asked that, I couldn't think of anything immediately. However, my sister's words reminded me of something important. But why do something like this? What's the benefit of doing all this? What do you mean? I mean, it's like being handed a divorce notice, isn't it? That's right. That's exactly right. What? Thank you. Huh? Oh, yeah. The situation of Joey and his parents leaving was actually an unexpected opportunity for me. Are you smirking? Yeah. It's kind of scary. Can I talk to you both for a moment? I then shared my plans with them. There's a lot I want to ask, but if Ashley has decided, then it's fine. I know I introduced you to Joey, but just go ahead and do what you need to. At that time, I deliberately chose not to contact them myself. Considering Joey's character, I was sure they would contact me first. So, I waited. It was a week after Joey and his parents had left. Hey. How are you doing? As I expected, Joey called. Wait a minute. Where are you right now? Huh? Why do I have to say such things? Are you stupid? What do you mean by that? Seriously, what a noisy woman. I'll forgive you if you apologize. Also, if you work as a housekeeper, I'll even give you the keys to the house. How about that? Isn't it a good proposal? I couldn't help but sigh at the absurdity. Who would do such a thing? For someone useless like you. Isn't that more like you? Huh? How dare you? I could hear Joey talking to someone over the phone. Huh? Yes, I understand. It was probably. My mom wants to talk. Without my consent, he handed the phone to his mother. Hello, can you hear me? I can hear you, but... Oh, you were alive. What did you say? Because you are unemployed now, right? I've heard about it. You really deceived me, what a scummy woman. Joey had lied to his mother to protect his pride. Who really is the scum here? I thought. What should I do? Why are you silent? Say something quickly? Hearing those words made my blood rush to my head. It's bad to say, but I'll teach this misunderstanding old woman over the phone. The truth about Joey. It seems you are mistaken, so let me tell you the truth, it wasn't me who got fired. Huh? What are you talking about? It looks bad now. Isn't that more on your side? Huh? Such nonsense. It seemed like the irritation of my mother-in-law would not stop. I'm not joking. After all, the luxury you've been living in is thanks to me. Enough already. I never thought the conversation would be this incomprehensible. No matter how much more time I spend telling the truth, she wouldn't listen. That's when I made up my mind. Then, I'll divorce your unemployed good-for-nothing son. Huh? Do you understand what you're saying? Even if you do that, you're the one who will suffer. Don't worry. Rather, you should be the one worried. This is not going anywhere. If you're going to hang up, you might want to ask about the firing. As I said that, the call ended. About 5 minutes later, Joey called again. Probably after talking to his mother. However, I did not answer the phone. I thought, now, let them suffer a bit more. And I waited for the opportunity. Thanks to that, what awaited Joey and his in-laws was not just hell. A month later, Joey contacted me again. Of course, I had been making various preparations during this month. I have nothing to talk to you about. Wait. Won't you live with me? Why? Why, you ask? Shall I guess? It's probably because you're after money? I absolutely refuse. You left on your own responsibility, so good luck. Don't say things like that. Aren't we close? You might have heard from your mother, but I intend to divorce you. What? That's just how it is. Don't contact me anymore. I thought it was over, but it wasn't that simple. The next day, Joey came to the house with his parents. Again? It's not like that. I've heard everything from Joey. And? I'm really sorry. Look, Joey, apologize. I'm really sorry. Can we start over? Isn't that a bit too convenient for you? I know that. But still, I'm asking you. How foolish can he be? No matter how much he apologizes, I have no intention of forgiving him. Sorry, but that's impossible. Please leave. If things continue like this, I won't be able to survive. But you took money from the house, right? Did you really use it all up? I used it all up on moving expenses and such. I couldn't help but laugh. Oh right. There's something I need to give you. Wait here. What is it? I went to the living room, grabbed something, and returned to the entrance. Here you go. What I handed Joey was a divorce form. This is. You can see what it is. It's a divorce form. There's no way this can be accepted. He then tore it up into pieces. Do you realize what you're doing? Joey. You. I will never agree to a divorce. Well, that's fine. Either way, I was thinking of consulting a lawyer. Can you leave for now? This conversation isn't over. Either way, if you keep making a scene, we can't live together. Let's just go home for today. Wait. Joey was practically dragged away by his parents. I then went to consult a lawyer introduced by my brother. There was still one final touch left to do. That was a close one. Thank you. Is everything really okay now? Yes. It's safer to handle the divorce through a lawyer. But I have a favor to ask? If there's anything I can do, just tell me. Actually, I asked my brother to help me find a new house. It turned out he knew someone who owned a real estate business. I quickly signed the contract and moved to the new house. Of course, I didn't tell Joey anything. Well, there was no reason to. As expected, Joey called soon after. Did you go to the house by any chance? Where are you now? Like I'd tell you. I had been hearing about Joey's situation through Emma. It seems he's still unemployed and living with his parents. Now that it has come to this, his parents will have to work as well. Considering how stubborn my mother-in-law is, it's unlikely she could handle a real job. Also, I heard you're still unemployed. Why do you know that? I won't tell you that. What? And please tell your mother to hang in there. By now, Joey and his parents will continue to face more challenges. Meanwhile, I'm living freely in my new home. And I've welcomed a new family member. I started raising a Chihuahua, something I had wanted to buy for a long time. For me, this little one is enough. From now on, I will live my life with this little companion.
Mom, Dad. I need to tell you something. I'm paralyzed from the waist down. I don't want to burden Kristen with caregiving, so I'm thinking of getting a divorce. I'm truly sorry. When the in-laws and I visited, Tyler revealed this with a despairing expression. Having met with a traffic accident while on a business trip. Hearing the heartbreaking news, his parents collapsed to their knees, lamenting their son's misfortune but quickly stood up again. Don't worry, Tyler. We are here for you. Kristen will support you too. The parents turned and looked at me, their eyes conveying a message of mutual support. Soon after, my unexpected response left them speechless. No, I'm actually single now. Tyler said he doesn't want to burden me with caregiving, but I never intended to do it. Not at all. My emotionally flat words seemed out of place, and at that moment, a sharp slap hit my left cheek. Not now, Kristen. Don't joke when your husband will never walk again. How can you say something so cold without batting an eye? Calm down, honey. Violence is not the answer. And remember, the next room might hear us, though I share your feelings. Kristen. It seems like you don't care at all. Isn't this the time for family to support each other? Supporting each other as a family. How wonderful that would have been. But my husband and his parents knew nothing, whereas I knew everything. Still expressionless, I was filled with anger inside. The in-laws glared at me, waiting for what I would say next. Being slapped by the mother-in-law was unexpected. But if they knew nothing of our circumstances, their reaction might seem normal. However, I had resolved to tell the truth. I took a deep breath and began to talk about everything that had happened. Let me explain everything, one by one. Could you please look at this? I pulled out a piece of paper I had prepared and showed it to the in-laws. The mother-in-law took it with a puzzled look. Is this a medical report? Indeed, it was a medical report from the time I had been to the hospital, just as she had said. Upon reviewing its contents, they showed expressions of shock. Did you hurt your head? How? What happened exactly? And it wasn't even that long ago. This is from when Tyler hit me, and I hit my head on a desk, requiring surgery. The moment I revealed this, both of them gasped in shock. He hit you. Tyler hit you? What in the world happened? Meanwhile, Tyler couldn't hide his disturbance from my revelations, his eyes darting around. Wait. Kristen, what are you talking about? Tyler tried to speak as if he knew nothing. But I ignored him and began to reveal the mistreatment I had endured from him. What I'm about to say may be hard for you to believe. Because Tyler always acted like a good husband in front of you. I'm not acting. Why would you say that, Kristen? We thought Tyler was a good husband. Was he different with you? Yes, he was. In the beginning, he eagerly did housework and was a very kind husband. But about a year after we married, he started ignoring me and verbally abusing me, and it hasn't stopped. As I explained without changing my expression, my husband denied the mistreatment. What are you talking about? When did I ever mistreat you? Tyler mistreating you? I can't believe it. It can't be Tyler. The in-laws were visibly distressed and confused. No wonder. They had always seen his good husband act, which was flawless. Furthermore, I heard that Tyler was straightforward and kind from his childhood. And he never went through a rebellious phase. So, even I hadn't expected them to believe what I said without evidence. Then I made my next move, pulling out a small device from my bag and asking the in-laws. Do you know what this is? Some kind of small device. I've never seen this. What is it? They were puzzled and questioned me further. Then I asked Tyler. Do you know what this is, Tyler? Could it be? He might have realized what it was, and I revealed the device's true nature. As Tyler seems to realize, this is a surveillance camera. Amazing, isn't it? Nowadays, you can get such high-quality, tiny devices easily. Seeing Tyler's panicked expression, I didn't miss it. He must have underestimated me, thinking I couldn't do anything significant. As I stared at him, he met my gaze. The fear was contained in his gaze, unlike when he was mistreating me. To further drive the point home, I pulled out a tablet and started playing a video. Let's watch this, shall we? Wait. What are you planning to do? Tyler's face turned visibly pale, realizing what I had recorded. Indeed, the video showed numerous instances of him mistreating me. And the playback now captured the decisive moment when he raised his hand against me. Don't laugh without my permission. If you laugh in front of me again, it won't end just like this. Understood. With a loud smack and his angry voice echoing. The video showed me collapsing from the pain and fear of being hit in the face. I then hit my head on the corner of the desk, bleeding from the wound. But Tyler didn't care, he slammed the door loudly and left the room. Shocked by the disturbing footage, the in-laws' faces turned pale. It's understandable. They had believed their son was a good husband. Yet what unfolded before them was unimaginable. The grotesqueness of the video was enough to make one nauseous. Possibly wounding the in-laws' hearts deeply. This can't be true. Tyler, what have you done? Even when I was injured, Tyler did nothing for me. So I had to apply first aid myself and go to a hospital that was open at night all by myself. The in-laws looked at my husband with disbelief. Tyler, avoiding eye contact, remained silent uncomfortably. Since the mistreatment began, Tyler would get angry whenever I showed any emotion, whether laughing or crying. Just on that day, he saw me laughing unconsciously at a message from a friend and hit me. He had often told me not to laugh without his permission. Whenever I laugh even a little, Tyler gets upset and hits me or lashes out at objects. This isn't the only instance of his mistreatment I've recorded. If you still can't trust this, I can show you more. No, I believe it. That's definitely Tyler. They were in disbelief that their son could treat his wife so cruelly. Both remained silent, their faces pale. I continued to explain the facts without changing my expression. There's no escaping it, right? It's all perfectly captured on video. If it weren't for this, you would have made excuses. That's why I set up the surveillance camera. This video, along with the diagnosis I showed earlier, serves as sufficient evidence of the mistreatment I endured. Recording without permission. What are you trying to achieve by doing this? Isn't it obvious? I want your parents to see the true nature you've been desperately hiding. Finally, Tyler began to show his true nature in front of his parents, but there was more to reveal. There are more videos I'd like you to see. Could we watch the next one? What's next? I then played another video. It showed Tyler in his office, seemingly doing some paperwork. This is, no way. He realized it showed him signing a divorce petition. After finishing, he stored it on a shelf next to his desk. As you can see, Tyler had prepared a divorce petition himself. And what I did with it, you probably can guess. Indeed, I had secretly taken the divorce petition while he was away on his business trip and filed it at the law office. The divorce petition has been officially accepted. So, I am already single. I reaffirmed the facts to the in-laws. It seemed they now understood that I had been expressionless all this time due to the mistreatment. The mother-in-law put her hand on my back and said, "I can't believe this. So that's why you always looked so expressionless, Kristen. I'm sorry we didn't realize." The in-laws are kind people. Now that they knew the truth, tears welled up in their eyes. They then turned to Tyler and sternly asked him to explain himself. They seemed to fully believe my story now. "Tyler, what have you been doing to Kristen? I didn't raise you to be such a person. What's going on with you as an adult? Explain yourself properly." Realizing he couldn't dodge the situation, Tyler began to speak, his voice breaking. "Actually, I've been harassed by my boss and colleagues at work. It's been hard to even go to work every day, but I can't quit my job. I couldn't talk to anyone about it." Harassment? The anger on her face softened slightly, perhaps as a mother concerned about her son. He continued to speak. "The business trip was actually meant for a colleague, but it was pushed onto me. I've also been blamed for mistakes at work that weren't my fault. And others have stolen credit for my accomplishments. I can't get their laughing at me out of my head. So that's why you told Kristen not to laugh." She seemed pained by her son's account. Her previously angry face turned into one of concern. Tyler, with tears streaming down his face, continued. "I had no escape, so I created one by mistreating Kristen at home. I've been terrible to her. I'm sorry. I was out of line. I truly apologize." Tyler repeatedly apologized on the bed, showing his remorse. I was a bit worried that his apology might sway his parents' feelings. But that was just my needless worry. "I understand your point, but that confirms the mistreatment, right? Shameful. A grown man shouldn't take out his stress on his wife." Apologized to Kristen sincerely. When they heard from his own mouth that the mistreatment was a fact, they exploded more angry than before. Tyler had perhaps hoped to divert the anger of his parents towards something other than himself by garnering their sympathy. However, he likely hadn't anticipated that this would backfire. No matter the reasons Tyler had, they didn't justify his mistreatment of his wife. Although the in-laws didn't vocalize it, they surely thought as much. Caught off guard by their continued anger, Tyler hastily apologized to them as well. "Dad, Mom, I'm sorry for letting you down. Kristen, I really am sorry. I'll make sure to pay the alimony. Paying alimony is the least you can do. Kristen, I'm truly sorry for what our fool of a son has done. We are really sorry. We will make sure he takes responsibility." The in-laws joined in the apologies. It was reassuring to see that they were reasonable people. It would have been unbearable if they had sided with Tyler. But Tyler's apology was not enough. Determined to pursue my next course of revenge, I spoke up. "Please, look up. There's no need for you two to apologize. More importantly, don't be deceived. What Tyler has done isn't just what you've seen. Not just this. What else has he done?" The in-laws looked confused again. The mother-in-law seemed both angry and flabbergasted by her son's actions. In the midst of this tense atmosphere, I abruptly left the hospital room. Now, the real performance begins. 5 minutes later, Tyler was astounded. I returned to the room with a woman in tow. For Tyler, my bringing this woman was unexpected. "Let me introduce you. This is Mia, Tyler's mistress." What? Not only did he mistreat his wife, but he was also unfaithful? Tyler. What is the meaning of this? How much more can you disappoint us? The in-laws were unable to hide their shock and began to interrogate Tyler. He was visibly distraught and denied knowing the mistress. What are you talking about? I don't know this woman. Is this some kind of misunderstanding, Kristen? Did you really think I knew nothing? You're quite naive. I asked with a cold tone, and he trembled slightly, looking down. I had anticipated that he would not immediately admit to the affair. Without hesitation, I played another video on the tablet. No, stop that. The video showed Tyler and Mia engaging in an affair inside his car. This was recorded by a camera I had installed in his car. Faced with this conclusive evidence, Tyler frantically tried to stop the video. But being paralyzed, he couldn't snatch the tablet from me. I had surveillance cameras not just in our house, but also in your car. You've gone too far. I had to do this much, otherwise, you would keep getting away with things, wouldn't you? And this isn't the only video. It seems you've used the car quite often for your escapades. Thanks for the substantial evidence. I had sensed signs of an affair as I monitored the cameras at home, leading me to suspect that his mistreatment stemmed from his infidelity. So I had also placed cameras in the car. With this, Tyler's affair was confirmed. And I began collecting evidence seriously, which led us to today. I have more than enough evidence in my hands. With Tyler unable to speak out in his defense, I continued to expose more truths to his parents. The reason Mia could come here so quickly is that she's hospitalized in the next room. Tyler said he had an accident during a business trip, but it was a complete lie. It was actually an accident during a trip he took with his mistress. Fortunately for her, she only sustained minor injuries. While Tyler ended up paralyzed, Mia was unscathed. Knowing that I was aware of everything, Tyler remained silent. An affair trip? So, this entire situation is his own doing. He's reaping what he sowed. It's punishment for his actions. The in-laws' anger reached its peak. The mother-in-law's fists were trembling with rage. I then made it clear to Tyler. In regards to our divorce, I'll be claiming alimony and property division. Of course, I don't need your consent to demand it. Tyler remained silent, but all he could do was acknowledge his guilt and apologize. Otherwise, his wounds would only deepen. Though I looked at silent Tyler with pity, he unexpectedly lashed out in a fit of rage. Up until then, he had been silent, but suddenly, he became defiant and started berating me. Fine. If you want to separate that badly, we'll get divorced. After all, I only married you to be a housekeeper. Telling me that now doesn't bother me at all? Besides, I've already filed for divorce, so we are strangers now. Is that so? Good riddance then. I was planning to dump you once you became unnecessary. Mia showed up, and you became obsolete. I'll pay the alimony and property division, so just disappear. Fine. I'll be leaving then. Make sure of your payment. No longer needing to play the good husband, Tyler hurled insults one after another. Despite being ridiculed by him, my expression remained unchanged as I left the hospital room. However, inside, I felt a sense of relief that it was finally over. And the clouds of frustration towards him had somewhat cleared. As I walked away lightly from the room, someone called out to me. Wait. Kristen. Even without turning around, I recognized it was the mother-in-law. Mother, you don't need to chase after me. I'm fine. It's not just about Tyler. I slapped you earlier without knowing everything. I'm really sorry. Please accept my apology. The mother-in-law knelt down and apologized. Please, get up. There's no need for that, especially in front of others. But I'm truly grateful that you and father-in-law took my side instead of Tyler's. Thank you for that. It's only natural. To think he was such a horrible person. I feel so ashamed as a parent. Kristen. I am truly sorry. As she spoke, the mother-in-law, with tears streaming down her face, hugged me. I wonder where we went wrong in raising him. We will make sure he pays the money and will persuade him to properly apologize to you, Kristen. I promise. For starters, I'm going back to the hospital room to slap him a few times. Her anger didn't seem to have subsided at all. The in-laws promised they would persuade their son to apologize, but I responded. Thank you. But please, rest assured. There's no need for you both to go out of your way. What do you mean? Do you have a good way to discipline him? Yes. Just wait and see. Indeed, my husband will be cornered in the future without me having to do anything. I know everything, as I've said many times before. A few days later, I was waiting for a phone call at my new home. I had missed calls and emails from Tyler multiple times, but I also had my own schedule. I had set a date and time when I could take a call from him. When the appointed time came, he called. He was panicked and disheveled, barely making sense. Calm down. What happened? That's what I'm trying to tell you. Mia ran off with my money. I can't reach her no matter how many times I call, and I don't know where she went. With my condition, I can't even go out to look for her. What am I supposed to do now? I see. What kind of response is that? Do you know something? In response to his frantic questions, I told him the truth. Actually, I knew this would happen. In fact, I had spoken with Mia a few months ago. At that time, she thought Tyler was single, because he had told her he was. She was very surprised to find out he was married. From her reactions, it was clear that Mia was not lying. And you know, Mia said something back then. She called you just a cash cow. That can't be true, right? Mia had intended to use Tyler and discard him, just as he had planned to do with me. Knowing Mia's scheme, I asked her to cooperate. I asked her to pretend to be unaware of anything and date him until my revenge was complete. Mia agreed, and Tyler, unaware of her scheme, believed they were really in a relationship. This means that by the time of the incident at the hospital, she was already fully aware of the situation. What? You must be joking. Sneaking around and deceiving me. Is that what a wife does? What are you talking about? You were the one who tried to discard me first, right? What goes around comes around. If you use people and throw them away, you can't complain when the same is done to you. This time, he had nothing to say back. There was no way he could. Always thinking about himself. Does he want to say that a wife is inferior to her husband? How blind can he be? How much does he need to hurt others before he's satisfied? If he doesn't change his ways, his life is over. But that's no longer my concern. My only wish is for him to fall into his own hell. We're done here, right? I'm going to hang up now. Just as I was moving the smartphone away from my face, I heard his voice from the depths of the phone. Wait. What now? Is there something else? I've realized. I need you. Please, give me another chance. To be speechless might be an understatement. How did he come to think this way? To think that he would ask for reconciliation at this point. What are you talking about? Don't say such foolish things. How could your thinking even go there? And here, I revealed another hidden truth to deliver the final blow. I know. You've already been fired from your job. What are you talking about? He wouldn't admit it right away, but it was the truth. Pretending otherwise was futile. There's no turning back now. While I was dismayed at his foolishness, I continued. You talked about being harassed by your boss and colleagues in the hospital room before. But that was all a lie, wasn't it? I heard you were the one pushing work and mistakes onto others. Why, how did you? I called your company to confirm you were on a trip with your mistress. That's when they told me you were causing problems there. As a result, my husband was fired. Always lying and deceiving people. He's truly hopeless. The only reason you're pushing for reconciliation is for money. You can't work properly with your current condition, so you're trying to make me work for you, right? I see right through you. No. I really realized your importance. Despite his ongoing lies, I completely dismissed his flawed reasoning. You used me like a tool and discarded me when I was no longer needed. You lied to suit your own needs and deceived me and your own parents. I will never forgive that. It seemed my utter contempt for him had finally gotten through. At last, he spoke words of regret and apologized. I'm sorry. I've been taking you for granted all this time. Ultimately, I thought you would forgive me. Though we couldn't see each other's faces over the phone. The tone of his voice conveyed that for once, his apology was heartfelt. You finally apologized. But I will never forgive you. Live your life alone and lonely. With those words, I pushed him away and hung up the phone. It's insane that some people never understand others' pain until they experience it themselves. But I was insane, too. I married him without realizing his true nature, became terrified, and complied with his demands. Even though I had allies and the in-laws close by, I never sought their help. I had regrets and reflections of my own, but now everything was finally over. I let out a sigh of relief. Later, I heard that Tylan had also sought help from his parents. However, since I had already informed them of everything beforehand, they were even more furious with him than before. By pushing him away, his parents left him without any allies, and he hit rock bottom. Meanwhile, Mia had found another mark to swindle. It seems people don't change that easily. However, it turned out that Mia picked the wrong person this time. And ended up being cornered herself. I hope this painful experience brings her some sense of remorse. Later, the in-laws came to apologize to me again. Kristen, we are truly sorry for everything that happened. We know it's not something that can be forgiven just by apologizing, but we are sincerely sorry. They expressed their apologies even more profoundly than Tyler. But I held no grudge against the in-laws. As I've said before, there's no need for you both to apologize. I am truly grateful to you. Kristen, we will always be on your side. Please don't hesitate to contact us if you need anything. The in-laws smiled kindly. Seeing their smiles, I felt warmth in my heart unexpectedly. Oh, Kristen, it's been a while since I've seen your smile. I had become unable to express my emotions, but unconsciously, I had smiled. My future is bright. With this realization, I cherished my current happiness.